VCT Americas Stage 2 is just around the corner, and it's time to rank each team heading into the split. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing VCT Americas Power Rankings pre-Stage 2. We of course went through Stage 1, we had the playoffs, so that has an effect on these Power Rankings, as well as how the teams that went to Shanghai did, that will have an effect too. So this is the board, these are the teams that we're going to rank 11 to 1, starting at the bottom. The last Americas Power Rankings I made was before the playoff stage started, so probably should have done one in between this one, but hey, didn't have time. But I will be telling you guys what the change from each team's rankings was since that video. So starting at number 11, shouldn't come as a huge surprise that MIBR finds itself in here yet again. This is where they were during the last power rankings. Don't think that's a huge argument, and I don't think much has changed. Yes, they did have a roster change, so maybe that'll help this team improve, but I don't see the roster change as something that's really going to prop this team up too much. Should maybe get them a win. Maybe they can beat Fury, and maybe they'll end up being better than Fury, but for now, we haven't seen the roster. I can't justifiably move them up, so here they are. Moving on, we have yet another Brazilian team that has found itself in this 10-11 spot quite a bit. So Fury is a team that I honestly just really feel bad for at this point. They had a really bad Stage 1, and they've been trying to make roster changes. We knew they were in on Pancada. That did not happen. He ended up going to Loud, and they did pick up Noswer, so it seems like maybe they're trying to pick up, like roster pieces from other teams that are dropping them, which is not a bad method, but when you don't get the player that you were trying to get in Pancada, doesn't really change much. So I brought them up to 10 because they were at least a little bit better than MIBR, but it's the same as where they were during the last power ranking. Okay, so now my number 9 spot and my number 8 spot is probably going to make the two fan bases kind of mad. However, I'm putting Energy at number 9, which is the same as where they were before the playoffs of Americas. So my justification here is, yes, they have the roster changes of bringing in FNS and Som. They swap out Demon 1 and Marv, which I think Demon 1 probably should have found a way to keep on the roster, but alas. So this roster should do a lot better from how that roster did. I think FNS coming in as the IGL should really help, but we haven't seen the roster yet. So they stay where they were before playoffs. I think that's a fine place to put them. I don't expect them to stay there. I expect them to be a lot better than they were last stage, but they're at number 9. That team that ended the stage, I felt like they were bottom 3. So they're here for now. I don't expect them to stay here. If they get a good amount of wins during Stage 2, then they won't be here at all. But we haven't seen this current iteration yet, so can't pump them up just yet. And moving on to number 8, Sentinels finds themselves here yet again. Just like Energy spotted number 9, Sentinels were in number 8 during the last power ranking. So again, we haven't seen this team play in Stage 2 yet, so we don't know how they're going to do. They didn't make any roster changes, not that I thought that they needed to. I do think that they are probably better than a lot of the teams that are going to be above them in this power ranking. However, looking at recent results, and we haven't seen them since that poor stage, they find themselves in number 8, and with the teams that are above them, I can't justifiably put Sentinels above them just yet, because we haven't seen them do good in a while. Just like Energy, I do expect them to move up, but hey, not every team that we expect is going to be good is going to be good. So we'll see what happens, but I do have a lot of faith in Sentinels. Just for now, they're number 8. So those bottom 4 spots are unchanged from the last power ranking, but at number 7, we have our first change. Number 7 is Loud. Loud going down 3 spots from where they were before playoffs. During Stage 1, they were playing a lot better heading into playoffs than they did at the start of the stage, but then they lose their only match of playoffs against 100 Thieves. It was a single elimination round, so they did not make it to Shanghai, and it just felt like the wheels of this team had just fallen off. They weren't looking as good as they had been even at the beginning of the year. Maybe they were a victim of being overworked from Madrid, much like Sentinels, and they do make the roster change of bringing Pancada back, which I think is a fantastic move. As much as I don't really blame Quick for this team underperforming, Pancada is an improvement. He fills a different role than Quick, so we'll see how that goes. And we had the rumor of Les being swapped out, but he's still on the roster as of recording, so we'll see where it goes for this team, but much like with Energy and Sentinels, recency bias does have an effect of where this team is. I think they are better than 7th, but I do kind of find it hard to believe that Loud are going to make a miraculous comeback during the season. We'll see how it goes, but it just feels like with all the Brazilian teams, this is a rough year. Moving on to number 6, we have a bit of a fall from grace for this team. C9 are at number 6. So C9 moved down 2 spots from where they were before playoffs, and I think that makes a lot of sense. This is a team that has a very talented player in Oxy, but the rest of the roster kind of leaving a lot to be desired. I do think Rooney and Moose were good additions. Those are 2 very good role players that fit in well with the team. Vanity as an IGL, I have questions about. A lot of the times it seems like his rosters start really well, but then taper off in the end. He can't seem to get a team over the hump. And while you could look at their loss in playoffs against G2 as, you know, something that, hey, we lost against a team that went top 3 in Shanghai, so, you know, we're still better than 6. Just the way that this team was playing during stage 1, it wasn't looking like something that was super sustainable. They were very reliant on comebacks. They were really bad during the first map of basically every match. So I don't really have a lot of confidence in this roster as it is constructed yet. It feels very deja vu from 2023, where they had a good regular season and then playoffs came and then they bowed out. And especially with how the teams that are above them were playing either during playoffs or in Shanghai or at the end of the split, I don't see C9 as a team that looks particularly better than any of those teams. Moving on to number 5, we definitely have a bit of surprise here, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put EG at number 5. EG was a team that was really struggling during the beginning of stage 1. They were looking lost, they were losing winnable matches, and they just couldn't seem to get a lot going. But by the end of the stage, they were looking a lot better. They upset some teams that were seen as better than them, famously beating Energy and Sentinels, and maybe looking at, you know, those two teams and where they ended up placing during the stage. Maybe we shouldn't give EG super high amount of credit for it, but Jogmo was playing absolutely insane. It seemed like the roster was really starting to find a groove, and once the pressure was off them, all bets were off. If they had made it into playoffs over Loud, I actually am pretty confident that they would have done pretty well during playoffs. They were looking very dangerous, and nothing is more dangerous than Evil Geniuses as an underdog. We saw that last year. Yes, a completely different roster, but hey, Jogmo's still there, Potter's still there. Maybe some of the secret sauce that was in the team last year is still here. So we'll see if they make it to playoffs. We'll see how they do at the start of the stage, but I am kind of riding high on them for now. And this was them moving up 1 from their last power rankings. They were at number 6 previously. Moving on to number 4, moving down 2 spots, we have Crew. So Crew nearly went undefeated during stage 1, but then in playoffs, they couldn't win a match. They lost against G2, a team that seems to be their kryptonite, and then they lost against Leviathan, their Latin American rival. So a really unfortunate end to what was a really solid stage with a lot of promise. Kesnet was firing on all cylinders. Heat was looking very good. A lot of their roster was doing very well in their roles. I'm curious to see if MTA makes a return to this roster, but I do kind of doubt he will with how well Heat has been playing. But we'll see. We're more than likely seeing this team in playoffs. They already have a very good record, so I think they might just need like the 1 win, maybe a second one. Probably going to be in playoffs, but for them, it's all about making champs. They haven't made it to an international this year, and with how they were looking at the end of stage 1, it was looking like they might have done it. Did not go their way. They couldn't come up big, but sometimes teams need to lose before they can win. So we'll see how it goes for Crew, but I feel like number 4, probably a good place. So moving on to the top 3, we of course have the Shanghai teams. Makes a lot of sense. They made it to the second international of the year. Some of these teams performing quite well. So coming in at number 3, I don't think is a huge surprise. We have Leviathan there. Leviathan's very interesting team to me. I don't think they're like super carried by Ospas, but he is the main driver of that team. If he's not going, the team's not going. Thankfully for them, Ospas is usually going. So if they can continue their momentum from stage 1 and look like one of the better teams in the Americas, then this team should have a playoff spot locked down pretty easily. They should be able to make it there, and there's a decent chance that they make it to champs. It's all going to depend on how the rest of the roster does. Does Calm continue to struggle? If he continues to play as poorly as he has, then I don't know if I see their chances getting a lot better. Kane has been looking really good. Tex has improved from where he was at the beginning of the stage. I don't know if I see this team being a tournament contender, but do I see them making it to champs? I think they have a pretty good chance. So we'll see where they are, but for now, number 3, I think that's a good spot. All right, so who's number 2 and who's number 1? Well, G2, they did technically place higher than 100 Thieves during Shanghai, but 100 Thieves did beat G2 at the end of stage 1 to get that top spot heading into Shanghai, and they didn't face each other at Shanghai. So it is an interesting question, but I do think I'm going to put G2 at number 2. G2 have shown a lot of improvement this year. They definitely don't look like a tier 2 team anymore. They had a rough kickoff, they had an okay stage 1, but then they had really good playoffs, and then they had a very solid run at Shanghai. I don't know if I see this team winning a tournament this year, but they have looked a lot better recently, and I do expect this team to gradually keep getting better as they've been doing. And they're already top 2 in Americas. We'll see if they continue to keep that spot. There's only so many spots for champions, so we'll see where it goes for G2, but I do like this team a lot, and I think they're going to keep improving, which of course would mean 100 Thieves is at number 1. And it's kind of funny. We have a team that starts with 1 at number 1, and then G2 at number 2. Isn't that funny? Anyways, 100 Thieves, they definitely were looking like the best team in Americas. I'm not as high on them as I've seen some of the fan base be, but I can't deny that they did have a decent run at Shanghai. Very rough last match, but still a good run. And they were able to beat some pretty good teams during that tournament. So it's a good sign for 100 Thieves from what we've seen from them so far, but overall, I don't know if I see them being, you know, like leagues better than any other of the teams that could contend for that top spot. I don't know if they keep this #1 spot, but it is possible. So this is the official Chill Out Esports VCT Americas Power Rankings before Stage 2 gets started. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of these choices? What do you think of these rankings and what your personal rankings would be? Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.